Well, hello, everybody out there in Zoom land. Welcome to this meet and greet with Roy Kiessling. My name is Michael Kerman with Leading Edge Seminars, and we're going to take a little trip, at least in our minds and in our Zoom screen, to Cancun with Roy, who is in Portland, Oregon, but will be with us in Cancun, Mexico, the week of February 21st to 25th. And the purpose of these meet and greets is for you to have the opportunity to hear directly from Roy what his program will be like in Cancun. And you might have other questions about the rest of the week in Cancun, what we're doing there, about COVID, about safety. So this is really your opportunity to hear and to ask questions about this very special program in Cancun. So thank you very much for being on this screen. When it comes to question time, there are two ways you can ask questions. First, you can just put it in the chat line if you have a question. Esta Porter, who is on your screen, is officially our hostess with the mostest, and she's been here to look at the chat line and see if you have any questions, and she will raise them. Or what's even better, if you feel comfortable appearing on the screen, you can, and we always love cameras on for those of you who feel comfortable doing that, you can either go to the hand raising function on the bottom of the Zoom screen or do the old-fashioned wave, and Emily will be looking for those as well. This program, as everything we're doing these days, we're using live transcription. So if you like to see the words along with hearing them, just go to the live transcription box on the bottom of your screen. I think Emily is putting a little note about how to access live transcription if you would like to do that. So first, Roy, thank you very much for joining us, especially early morning in Portland. It's very nice to have you here.
Well, thanks so much for inviting me. I think this is an exciting opportunity for all of us to get together with a little R&R, as I think we've posted. This has been a tough 2 years, and we need to not only relax, but also reboot our EMDR skills a little bit, perhaps too, at the same time.
Yeah, I'm going to invite you to talk about your program and what it's like, but I'll let everyone here know that, a few years ago, we've been in business for a long time in Toronto, providing workshops for mental health practitioners, and we decided maybe late in the game to start offering EMDR. And I heard about Roy and his reputation for presenting a different kind of EMDR, so invited him to come to Toronto 3 or 4 years ago, and then Vancouver, and we've been having these programs about learning how to do EMDR and what it's all about with Roy. So when I thought about being in Cancun with all kinds of interesting speakers, Roy certainly came to mind, thinking that's a great environment to have him present. So Roy, why don't you talk a little bit about what you're going to be doing in Cancun?
Okay. Yeah, well, I think most of us have been trained with the standard model that Shapiro put together 30 years ago. Very single incident specific set of protocols that could take care of a vast majority of our clients with single incident post-traumatic stress. And then as EMDR was integrated and became more and more popular, clients with more complex situations started to be part of our treatment population. And I think EMDR has evolved beyond just the simple protocols and procedures. And I think this is one of the initial struggles that a lot of people have, depending upon their training approach, of how to transition from this very nice structured set of steps to what has become really a very elegant interpersonal form of therapy that is meeting the client where they are. And I think we've all realized with very complex clients, they are way beyond just single incident traumas. We're dealing with early attachment issues, implicitly stored disturbing experiences that begin sometimes in utero and through the entire lifespan. And so when we introduce EMDR to them, we're not just processing a single incident, we're really processing their entire lifespan. And because of that, there's so much that's occurring that not only during the treatment processing phase, formalization phase, but during processing itself, that really is built around the interpersonal connections we have, the ability to read our nonverbal cues with one another, which we often in our trainings emphasize is the first way that an infant communicates with their caregivers is through the nonverbals that they're sending to their parent and the parents are sending back. And I think sometimes that gets missed in our EMDR approaches, that it's just a technique that doesn't involve a lot of attunement or attachment. And so this whole lecture about interpersonal EMDR is going to take it to that more sophisticated, elegant level of understanding the nuances that begin at case formalization and listening to the client and establishing rapport and relationship, making sure they have a safe environment so that they can process the information. And then really having laid that foundation, once we begin processing, to be really able to attune to where they are developmentally. We also know that when we're doing the entire lifespan of processing, we can have different memory systems or ego aspects that come up during processing. There are times when we're communicating with an infant or somewhere further along in their lifespan processing with a young child or a teenager or an adult. And so knowing that clinical landscape and recognizing that flow and picking up on that in an interpersonal way allows us to intervene more appropriately clinically, following our intuitions. I think when we've been trained, you learned the term cognitive interweave, which to me creates a cognitive dissonance of what is a cognitive interweave? Well, it's that interpersonal connection that we make with our clients, whether it's a comment, a reframe, a supportive nod, a smile. All those things are really modeling to our client during processing that we're there and we're attuned to them. And I think, again, in our complex clients, many of them present with that lack of attunement, having a parent who didn't know how to attach, didn't know how to read nonverbal cues. And so we're playing that out in our processing experience as well. So that really is the foundation for the training and why I position it as an interpersonal form of psychotherapy. It's a lot built around Dan Siegel's work in neurobiology and interpersonal communication and exchange of energy. So that's kind of the foundation. And then when you invited me, I thought, wow, what a wonderful opportunity to reboot people coming in that have been trained in other models to learn in a little more interpersonal way, but also have a chance for that to sink in by combining it with the wonderful spot that we are. So basically what our training is going to look like over the 5 days is each morning we will have an opportunity to do a little bit of learning about EMDR from this interpersonal way. There'll be opportunities to practice with one another. As we all know, learning through EMDR is primarily reinforced by experiential work with practicums. So you'll have a client that you'll be working with for the 5 days and meeting them and getting to know them, and each day have a treatment session with them. And we'll be doing that each morning in a very nice, relaxed way. And I'm sure the wonderful conference room, I don't know what it looks like. And then the afternoon, it's really up to everybody to do what they want and relax and kind of unwind. Personally, I probably will be sitting out by the pool, and I will love to just chat about EMDR with anybody that's there, because that's just my enthusiasm. And I think I'm on vacation when I'm even thinking EMDR and relaxing. So I'm going to be probably available most of the time. And then I think the other teaser that you gave to me, which is just exciting for me, is that on Wednesday evening, we'll have a chance to talk about the evolution of psychotherapy with Bessel van der Kolk, who I think is doing a parallel course. And I have to smile, and I'm smiling a little bit. When you introduced that to me, I think I responded with, wow, I get a chance to teach all week, talk with Bessel van der Kolk, and you're actually going to pay me a little bit. So it's almost like I ought to pay you for that opportunity. So I think that's the excitement, the enthusiasm that I hope participants have when they come and join us, to just immerse themselves in a very nice community where we begin to establish that community and feel safe and comfortable with one another. I think that's always a challenge for clinicians when they take any training, to feel comfortable enough to ask questions, feel safe enough to expose that they don't know everything. And so I think that's the other advantage of this type of training, that as it extends over the 5 days, we'll really get to know each other and feel comfortable and can talk about cases and how this integrates with their clinical practice, and really take them beyond the protocols and procedures that Shapiro put together to this very elegant kind of interactive form. A couple analogies. There's a difference between playing music in an orchestra. some of you may not realize, but one of the highest stress jobs is being a musician in an orchestra, because you have to play the music exactly the way the director wants. And what we're going to be doing is teaching you jazz, where you can improvise. And the foundations of music theory are the same, just as the foundations of EMDR. But we want to be able to modify and adapt and flex to adjust to where our clients are, all in the context of this neural network that's being processed. So we know where they are, we know the arenas which they're working on, and we can intuit where they're processing and be able to kind of help as that guide on their journey to help them notice things along the way, perhaps pick different pathways they may want to consider. So it's going to be a very interactive way. The goal is to move you from your left brain to almost being totally a right brain experience, with supportive left brain comments and evaluations, but really being attuned in a very interpersonal way with your client during processing. So I'm hoping that by the end of the 5 days, people will feel themselves unchained from that structure that too often clinicians have felt they needed to follow in the EMDR and how it's set up. So basically, that's what I hope to see happen.
Okay, thanks, Roy. Just one question. When you've presented the kind of level 1 training, and I've been in the room and spoken to people, and some are who've taken it for the first time, and others have been doing EMDR for a while, or they let their EMDR practice lapse, and now they're getting a refresher. Do you see this week applicable to people new to EMDR, but who've had the training, as well as people who are experienced?
Well, I think, yes, anybody who has started the training, it will be fitting. And even the most experienced, sometimes when they have come back and listened to these more intuitive approaches, they feel kind of unshackled, that they get reintegrated, re-enthused about using EMDR because they've been concerned about doing it right. We hear that all the time. Am I doing it right? As though there's this box we have to do. And so even participants who've come back to our basic training that have been experienced clinicians that maybe have put it aside are re-energized. And so I think this fits the entire continuum of anybody having started, even regardless of the model you've been trained in. This is going to push that basic envelope a little bit further. And if you're a seasoned clinician and you're looking for, how did I just move this up a notch and get a little bit more of that connection, I think that's also going to be very valuable for them to look at things a little differently, perhaps, than they have been trained, taking into consideration this much more complex client who needs the attachment, the attunement, and the validation, and to process a whole lifespan of information with our support.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll say a few things about the whole general program, why we decided to do this and everything else. So first, we planned on this doing something in Cancun before COVID hit. And the idea was, wouldn't it be nice to have training in the morning in a beautiful place, and then the rest of the time to either do what you want, well, to always do what you want, but also add some perks or benefits, because some people, after 12:30 might say, I just want to go to the beach, have lunch, use all the facilities at a great place. Others are looking to be together with other people or some combination of that. So first, the place we chose, the Dreams Resort and Spa, had great ratings on TripAdvisor. I looked it up, and you certainly can do that. It had like 4.5 out of 5 reviews. I even looked at people who were there recently in the last couple of weeks who said really, most of them said great things about the resort, even to the extent of all the staff are masked, even though 100% of the staff will be masked by the new year, 98% as of now. So they're very cautious about the whole COVID situation. They're offering free antigen tests for Americans going back. There is a charge for the PCR test for Canadians. So we really like the place, because if it wasn't a great place to be for a week, then we wouldn't have chosen it. And then thinking about what would make a great week for people who want to be able to hang out and be with others, even Roy, sitting around the pool in the afternoons. So first, as Roy said, there's going to be a speakers forum on Wednesday night with Bessel van der Kolk, and you can have a chance to see Roy and Bessel talk together. And then every morning we're going to have yoga for those who would like to do that. And every afternoon, kind of like a happy hour, it's at an all-inclusive, so you're not paying for the drinks, but you can have all you would like. And every day before dinner, we'll say, let's meet at this spot. If you just like to hang out with people. We've also invited each week, Roy, I don't know if I told you this, we have a very important person coming each week. And for your week, we have Nicholas Williams, who's an excellent musician and storyteller. He's with a very popular group in Canada called Chante Carum. And he will be bringing a number of instruments down, singing, talking, presenting a couple of times, presenting meaning some kind of entertainment, and then be there for people who want to talk to him about the music scene, about traditional music in Quebec and North America. So he'll be there for the week. We also are going to working with a travel company, a tour company in the area to look at Mayan Riviera kind of pro tours if people want to go just with our group, and that will be available. You'll hear more about that. Now, all these perks are available not only to people who are attending your workshop, but if you bring a partner, a friend, a spouse, anybody, they're welcome to join in any of these kinds of activities. They're really for everybody, and there's no additional charge for them or for you to participate in anything except for those tours, which will have a charge. As mentioned, the Dreams Resort has pretty extensive COVID safety policies. You can read about them on our website or their website, and they are giving those testing. And finally, we are offering, yes?
Can I just make a correction?
Sure.
You were talking about the resort staff. You said 98% are masked. You meant vaccinated.
No, vaccinated. You're right. So I spoke to the resort last week, and they have a very strict policy of their staff being vaccinated in order to work there, which is a big relief. So 98% were 100%. Thank you, Kim. By the new year. That's kind of what I wanted to say, and also just to let you know that we're offering a special discount to people who are watching Roy's program. We're going to send that out. Emily will send it out with a video of this because a number of people have registered to watch this video and they're not here today. So those are some things about what we're doing there, and I'm going to open it up for questions to Roy about his program, or anything else about the week that you would like to know, because that's why we're here today. So we'll start off. Emily, do you have any questions yet?
I'm not seeing any so far. Again, if people want to either wave at their cameras if their cameras are on, or if they want to unmute or raise their virtual hand, we'd love to hear from you.
And I notice Esta Porter is on the screen. Esther has assisted Roy in Vancouver and Toronto, and now she leads her own training programs, EMDR. Esther, do you have any comments about what you're hearing about this? I thought I would ask you since I see you on the screen and we know each other.
Well, I would say that it's going to be an awesome program, and I think it's a really, really great thing to do for many, many reasons. Number one, the reboot of EMDR, as a person who does trainings and a lot of consultations, I think Roy is always, pretty correct here about saying the biggest thing, if you're working with someone who's done the original training is a good foundation, but the training that Roy provides actually gives people the ability to be very much attuned and with the client, so that they can interweave and go back and forth in the protocol with many different ways to support people through their progress with EMDR therapy. Quite different from how I was trained, quite different from how the more traditional trainings are. But in all cases, and I mean that sincerely, I never say the word all, in all cases when people pick up on the EMDR consulting training, they feel more competent and more capable, and the outcomes are very, very much more dramatic and very clear, direct. So I would endorse it big time, period.
Okay, thank you, Esta.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
because Roy has created EMDR consulting with this approach, which is really one he's brought into the world and has people like Esther training actually throughout North America and other places of the world as well. Emily?
Um, Not seeing any. I guess we have a shy audience today, but
Okay.
I'm not seeing
Well,
anything right now.
if Paula Harry is willing to make a comment, I should say that Esta's one of our trainers in EMDR consulting, is Paula Harry. If you're willing to kind of share a little bit of your experiences about how people have integrated it, that would be great.
Sure. So I also was trained originally in the original model, and then Roy came and did some trainings at my institution where I used to work. And I will just agree with what Esta said, that as I have become a trainer of Roy's model, I get to also explain the differences between the Shapiro model and Roy's model, and how it feels more global when you're dealing with people, that it can accommodate, and not just the client's perspectives, but also the clinician's perspectives, wherever they're coming from in terms of their orientation. But it is very welcoming in terms of people incorporating it into their work, but also incorporating it into their experience as the clinician. So I have found it to be a universal way to work with EMDR and the people. So I used to work in a prison, and now I'm in private practice, but across the board, as Esta said, it's quite kind, the way that people are able to use the interpersonal model.
I saw Karen raise her hand, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, let's get you unmuted,
I
Karen.
think she waved at me.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I'm not, okay.
Karen, did you want to make a comment? I don't know if you're waving. There you are. You're unmuted.
Oh, I was just going to say hi to Paula and Roy, and I'm very excited to be a newly approved consultant and working with Paula, and very excited about the new program, the new way of looking at and learning and using EMDR. And I've had a psychoanalytic training program over the years, along with my EMDR certification and training. And it's been really pleasant to be able to draw from different philosophies. And I think I look at this as more of the same, and I'm very excited about it.
Thank you.
As you were saying this, I'm thinking one of our challenges for basic training is this flood of information that overwhelms people. And even with those who have been trained, to have that immersion of every day, 8 hours a day, you're brain dead after about half the day. So we're going to be going at a nice pace that's going to be very comfortable. We're going to be obviously attuned to your interpersonal needs. I would be falling short if I didn't have that as part of our agenda. And so that it can be integrated and feeling comfortable to do this in a very safe community. You'll have a partner that you'll be working with for 5 days. So you actually get a third R of reprocessing if you want to consider that each day you'll have an opportunity to go through a practicum and experience what it's like to kind of learn EMDR from a neural network belief focus perspective. It's one of the things that we emphasize is building a lot of case formalization around the core beliefs that we have about our presenting complaints. And then the other thing that we teach that's quite, I think, unique in the community is a processing continuum that allows us to titrate down those complex clients. I think one of the challenges, or several of the challenges in EMDR, are number one, not fully understanding the clinical landscape. And you might remember, as I was trained by Francine, her node is this target of a car crash or whatever. And then when processing occurs, things come out of that node. And one of the intimidating things about that approach is sometimes that associated channel is even a bigger problem than what we started with. And I think that's quite intimidating to all of us. We don't want to open up a Pandora box without it's there, knowing it's there. So you'll learn how to, number one, formulate a case that identifies the neural network And one of the kind of add-ons to Hebb's axiom, which is that neurons that have fired together, wired together, think you could add maybe a Kiessling axiom that the neurons that have wired together process together. And so we're going to make sure you understand all that as neural networks so that when you begin processing, you'll know where it could potentially go, as with the client. And then also with the processing continuum and this targeting plan, you'll be able to sit down with your client and say, do you want everything to open up with this particular issue, or do you want to manage it? For a lot of our more complex clients, that's the challenge. And usually with the standard approach that is one speed, if you have those neural networks that you know would go down into really intense traumas that the client might not be prepared to address, the standard model is to do resourcing until they are able to do that. Well, we can start much sooner with our processing continuum, which includes, of course, the unrestricted processing, which is the ideal for all of our clients, but also able to compartmentalize it down to very, very tightly held and restricted processing. So our processing continuum includes EMDR, it includes contained processing, which I use as an EMDR lower, EMD with a small case R, and then a very restrictive form of EMD prime, which is even more tightly held than what you might read in the literature about Shapiro's EMD. And it allows you to, if necessary, fragment down an incident that otherwise might dissociate the client. I've had many of my colleagues say, that's been just a wonderful tool to have for those complex clients who otherwise couldn't get any treatment at all as far as bilateral activity. You can compartmentalize it down to even smaller and smaller fragments so that they stay within their window of tolerance and you stay within your own comfortable window as well. So I think those are, in addition to looking at this from that interpersonal perspective, seeing it from a neural network, structure of negative and positive belief systems. We're going to emphasize building more of the positive belief. I think that's another thing that's frequently overlooked in the EMDR community. I've frequently asked people, and I won't ask for any raise of hands here, but I'll ask people which of the two neural networks is most important. And I think from the standard model, everybody brings up the negative because we're so focused on desensitization. The reality is that we look at memory network consolidation, which means there's negative materials adaptively want to consolidate and update to something. And what is it that they're updating to but the positive system? So part of this training is also going to emphasize building and strengthening the positive neural network so that it's a well-defined direction for processing to move. And I think that's going to be a shift as well from this interpersonal experience that builds around the fact that clients do have these positive systems. The negative tends to mask and overwhelm the positive, and our task is to kind of shift their focus to the positive, clearly define the direction that's adaptive for that client's entire lifespan, and then implement a processing modality that will help them move in a very safe, effective, and efficient way. So that's also part of that interpersonal component, that we really are going in with our eyes wide open. Our clients will understand the clinical landscape. You'll be able to talk with them about what to work with, how much of what to work with, and how much to have come up. The processing continuum also is this variable tool that we can use for managing emotions. I think the other challenge that I think we've all felt is when the client starts to emote, pushing them through with excessive stimulation. While it might process that event, I'm sure maybe if you've had clients come back and say, I really, that processing that event worked for me. I feel much better about that, but I'll never do that eye movement stuff again because it was just too intense. But we don't want to lose that. And so we can titrate down how they are handling those really intense experiences so that they stay within their window of tolerance. So they're willing to come back and use EMDR again to further their treatment. So that's going to be another part of what's included in this umbrella of this interpersonal approach. You know, neural network perspective, how to attune to the client, but also how to manage their processing so that it stays within their windows of tolerance. I think that's going to be the other piece that I think is unique to our training. I think that's been there since 2013, just to be able to provide this option so you can manage processing. I think we all get uncomfortable with clients who are over emoting. So this is going to be designed to teach you that as well.
Okay, right. It's almost time to wrap up, but I did get a question. Someone says, not having any EMDR training and attending this, is it advisable or not advisable?
It really is going to be totally focused on EMDR and the intervention. So I would say that it would not be relevant to how they think and all the interventions. They wouldn't be able to participate in the practice sessions as a clinician because they wouldn't be trained in it. So we really want to make sure that the people who are eligible to this have at least started their training. And I think they don't have to necessarily have finished it. If they want to get EMDR credits, I should say that this has been applied for and it's pending. If it's approved, you'll pick up 15 or 16 hours of EMDR credits. But somebody who is still in the midst of training, they wouldn't be able to be eligible for the EMDR CEs. But I think you need to have at least the baseline of the training, or finish the course with perhaps not having done all of your consultation. That would be the minimum requirement.
Okay, well, Roy, thank you. And I just want to let everybody know, if you're interested in learning more, of course, we have our website. We'll put that in a message we'll send to you. It has all the information about this program and the other ones we're doing in Cancun, including Bessel van der Kolk's. And also, we try to make it easier for people to register. You're not going 100 places, so you can book your rooms, read all about the place where we're having this week, and we even have an FAQ which answers a lot more questions, and you can always ask us as well. So we'll send out that link along with a discount coupon for those watching this today, because we love to see you there. And Roy, I'm looking forward to seeing you there in February. We should have a lot of fun, and it should be a great week. Thank you all for watching, and hope you have a great post-Halloween day, everybody.